Hi guys, and welcome back to Movies That Matter with the Viking. And today is a very special day, 4 year anniversary of Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. So 4 years ago today we all got to witness a magnificent masterpiece of a comic book movie. Some of us got to see it a little bit earlier. Some of us got to see it today or tomorrow. 4 years ago, we all got to see it at some stage. Hopefully, you got to see it in the cinemas. I was so excited for the build up of Batman versus Superman. I really was. Man of Steel kind of passed me by a bit. I wasn't as big into films as I am now back in 2013, so I didn't get to see that in cinemas. I only got to see Man of Steel on the build up to Batman vs Superman because I was watching Zack's previous films. And I was so excited. I must have watched the Comic Con trailer about 100 times. I was looking at all the articles, all the posters that were released. I was keeping up to date so much. There's only two films that I've ever kept up to date with the pre-production, the production, post-production, everything. Is Batman vs Superman and Logan. Two films I was so excited for, and I was not let down by either of those films. But I was so excited the day I seen Batman vs Superman. I actually seen it on the 24th, but the film was at 10 o'clock at night or 10:30. So by the time it was over, it was the 25th. And that's the way to do it now with some films as well. But I went and I got to see it, and I was blown away by the film. I was in a cinema that was packed. It was wedged, you couldn't move in the place. There was a great atmosphere in the cinema. I haven't been to I haven't been to many films that had such a good atmosphere, just sitting waiting for the film to start. It was pure excitement for Batman versus Superman. And then that opening scene happened. You've got Ben Affleck's Batman running through the dust, a building dropping, Zod and Superman fighting, and you have Ben Affleck's Batman just running and running and running. You know, it gets your adrenaline up. It just puts you into it. It was such an experience, and it's an experience that I treasure to this day. And I've watched Batman versus Superman, the cinema edition, the cinema cut, so many times. I've watched the Ultimate Edition so many times. I don't mind watching either film. I love both of them. Of course, the Ultimate Edition that came out a few months after on Blu-ray is it's a different kind of film as well, but it's different and it's better. But I still enjoy both. Batman vs Superman got a lot of criticism back in 2016. A lot of unfair criticism, in my opinion. I think it was being compared too much to Marvel by critics, by fans, and things like that. DC has always been different from Marvel. The dark, broody, dark humor, dark themed tones always suited DC films better. You look at the 1989 Batman, the Tim Burton Batman films. Dark, it suits DC. The thing is when DC tries to be something that it's not, it always fails. Michael Keaton's Batman got a lot of backlash back in the early 90s. They left the project, then they brought in George Clooney, Val Kilmer, Batman, and they changed the tone. The film still made money, of course, because it's Batman, but the films weren't that good. It has a fan base, but they weren't that good compared to the Burton films. Then it took years and years for DC to recover until Nolan came along with his trilogy, and then Zack came along with his trilogy. So it's when DC tries to be, when Warner Brothers tries to be, or tries to copy someone else, tries to be a Marvel, you get films like Justice League, which fail. So I've always been more attached to DC films because they feel more real in terms of tone and humor to the real world that we live in. So that's my opinion on that. But Batman versus Superman, as Henry Cavill said, it's a very niche film. It's very different. The different comic book film. The fan base is so vocal and so strong and so defended of the film because it gets a lot of unfair criticism. I remember to the lead up of 2016 for Batman vs Superman's release, I used to watch numerous YouTube channels, movie channels, talked about the upcoming movies and broke down trailers and stuff. And they were criticizing Zack Schneider before the film even came out. They were criticizing the decision to cast Gal Gadot, to cast Ben Affleck, to cast Jesse Eisenberg. Criticism, criticism, criticism. The film came out, and I knew exactly this is what was going to happen. I knew the film was going to be criticized because it was already being criticized before it came out. And then they were comparing it to Marvel, and then things that Marvel do, they were lamenting those things that Marvel do. And then if DC did something similar, they criticized it. So there was a lot of biased opinions back in 2016, and then that led into Suicide Squad, and of course then into Justice League and things like that. And it's those kind of things that made Warner Bros. Be so reactionary to critics. They shouldn't have cared. The films made money. They were making money. They had a fan base. People were going to see the films, making big money. It's only when they tried to change everything, Justice League, Shazam, Birds of Prey, the box office started to decrease. Aquaman did very well for itself. But Batman vs Superman had a budget of 250 million. It made 873 million at the box office, the worldwide box office. I think it made a further 100 million sales on Blu-ray. It's one of the best Blu-ray sales of all time. But the day I seen Batman vs Superman, I was in awe of the film. I loved it so much. I couldn't wait to see more of the world from Zack Schneider. I was even more hyped for Justice League. Couldn't wait for Wonder Woman. Couldn't wait for Suicide Squad. I enjoyed those films. But I was really hyped to see what was going to happen for Justice League. The thing about Batman vs Superman is it's called Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. You can get a fair idea what the film is going to be about, and people still criticize that. For me, if you go through a checklist of things that Batman vs Superman had to get right, Ben Affleck had to be great as Batman. He was. Henry Cavill had to continue his story as Superman and be as good or even better than he was in Man of Steel. He was. Gal Gadot, with so much pressure on her, had to be a great Wonder Woman. A woman who is not praised for her acting ability in previous films was brought into this mega huge millions and million dollar film, and she was great. Jesse Eisenberg had to be a good Lex Luthor. He had to be a good villain, intimidating, engage the audience into the story. I thought Jesse Eisenberg was brilliant as Lex Luthor. The action scenes had to be great. Zack is always going to do great action. He is. And the Batman vs Superman fight was great. The warehouse fight was great. When Wonder Woman, Batman and Superman against Doomsday. The thing is, we got 3 unbelievable fight scenes in one film. 3. Just think about the fight scenes just on their own. Absolutely flawless. Absolutely brilliant. They look so good. The warehouse scene, that's what I've always wanted from a Batman. 20, 30 guys coming at him and he absolutely just takes them all out. The Nolan films are great. The action is never the best thing about those films. Ben Affleck's Batman, 6'4", whatever he is, over 200 pounds or whatever weight he is, full of muscle. Not as big as me, but you know, but him just taking out 20 or 30 guys. That was so cool. The Batman vs Superman fight, the cinematography, the CGI was all brilliant. Everything worked. I, for one, I don't have much criticism for Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice. The only criticism that I have is that the Ultimate Edition should have been the cinema cut. That should have been the film that we seen. Of course, Warner Bros. Doing Zack wrong again by cutting the film and saying you have to take out this, you have to take out that. It has to come under a certain runtime because we won't make as much money. That's all BS. Look at a film like Infinity War, look at a film like Endgame. If the film is good, if it's got engaging characters that the audience will love and already love, it will do well. If the film is good. But I thought maybe we could have got a little bit more of an introduction or a better introduction to the League instead of the way we did it. A little bit more of Aquaman, but I suppose it's a big film, and you have Batman, you have Superman, you have Wonder Woman, you have Lex Luthor, you have Doomsday. There's only so much you can put in a 2.5 hour film, you know. So I don't have much criticisms for Batman versus Superman at all. I love the film. It's my favorite DCU film. It's probably my second favorite DC film of all time. The Dark Knight is still number one for me, and then you've got Batman versus Superman, and Joker comes in there. But I'm a huge fan of Batman versus Superman, and I defend it the whole time. A lot of my friends don't like the film. I don't mind people not liking the film. That's okay. I, in particular, didn't like Endgame that much. I liked Infinity War, thought that was a brilliant film. I thought they let themselves down in Endgame. I still went and seen Endgame, and I appreciated it. And I appreciate the work the directors tried to do. And it's so difficult, so many characters, and this is the last film in this saga of films. It's hard to get it right. So I appreciate it and I admire it, and I still watch it and I enjoy it. You have to admire Batman versus Superman. It's a very different film. The way that Zack depicts this story of God versus man, and these men are going toe to toe with each other. And it's something as simple as Batman, as Bruce Wayne realizing that this God isn't a monster. This God is more of a man than I am. He's got a mother just like I had a mother. The thing is, Bruce Wayne's mother's dead. Superman's mother's alive. He's more human than Bruce Wayne. And Batman, in Batman vs Superman, was going through a hard time. Of course, you could see that the Robin costume was there, killed by Joker and Harley Quinn. How much of an impact did that have on Ben Affleck's Batman? We probably would have got to see more of that in the standalone film, but you have to realize that this is a very complex story and these characters are flawed. A big criticism you see with people about Zack's interpretation of these characters is that they're not the characters they're supposed to be. I never realized that argument. I don't understand that argument whatsoever. So Superman isn't smiling, he isn't happy-go-lucky Superman, he's not Superman. The same as the MCU, Zack had a plan laid out. He had a story, he had an arc to tell. Read any great story, read any great book. Look at some of the best films of all time. Go to the start of those films or those books or those stories. See who the character is. And I guarantee you, 90% of the time, the character that you meet at the start of the book, the start of the story, is never the same character at the end. Henry Cavill's Superman. This was his story. This was his trilogy per se. We would have got the scene from Man of Steel to Batman vs Superman to Justice League. The birth, the death, the resurrection. It's story development. And people just wanted it now. It's not the way great stories work. Ben Affleck's Batman would have had a redeeming arc. He was in a bad place. He's the reason Superman died. That's why he needed to bring the League together. And then we know from Zack's plan, he always planned on killing Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne would sacrifice himself for the world so he could redeem himself for what he did. So it's all about story arcs, and I just never understand the argument that they're not this way and that he did it wrong and all this. It's BS in my opinion. The story is to tell an arc. It's to bring this character from one incarnation to another, to bring that character along and look at all the struggles that character faces throughout its story. Look at all the things that go right. Look at all the things that go wrong. How does that affect that person, that God? Look at your own life. You're born, something happens to you, and you are the way you are. And things happen along the way, and you change your mental view on things. You change the way you look at yourself. You change the way you treat other people. Because you're on a story. We're all on a story, and things happen to make us change. You know, I look at criticism of MCU characters, they're kind of the same character the whole time, you know. But I never understand that argument. It's a story. It's a character development. These characters are supposed to have films and films and films, and we're supposed to see a transition of who they are. So that's what I think about that. Let's go through the cast. Ben Affleck, as I say, he is the best Batman of all time. You look ripped straight out of the comic books. The look, the action, the way he presents himself, brilliant. Henry Cavill, the best Superman of all time. I know Christopher Reeve is a great Superman, but Henry Cavill is just, he has it all. He has that flaw. Zack Snyder said before that Superman is too perfect, which he is. It's a very hard character to write about. He can do anything. In the old films, didn't face that much struggle, to be honest with you. But I liked the way Zack was telling the story, that he's a god, he can do anything, but he's not perfect. He makes mistakes, and he has to learn from these mistakes. Amy Adams as Lois Lane, brilliant. She said before in an interview that she always dreamed of being Lois Lane. Watching the old films, she wanted to be Lois Lane. She's absolutely brilliant. Nothing wrong with her whatsoever. Jesse Eisenberg gets a lot of hate. I really like his Lex Luthor, and every time I watch Batman vs Superman, his performance gets better and better. And I just kind of like watching his character. He's a very, very good villain, and I like the way in Batman vs Superman, it's not all spelled out for us. This is what the villain's doing, and this is how he's doing it, and this, I love the subtle telling of when they're on top of the building on the helipad, and Jesse Eisenberg has Superman bow down to him, and then he just kind of he says, he doesn't say, oh, I did this and I did that. He leaves little hints about, like, you let your family die and things like that. It's very cool the way it's done. Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White. He was very different in Batman vs Superman from he was in Man of Steel, and the reason I think this is because, so him and Lois Lane have a good relationship. They respect each other. Lois Lane is a successful journalist. Perry White runs a very successful magazine or newspaper, and I think she gets away with a lot more because he knows her and he knows she's good. But he's a little bit hard on Clark Kent in Batman vs Superman because he's one of his employees. He's a worker. He's not this big, great journalist, so he's harder on him. And I like that aspect that he has on Clark Kent. Like, clicks his heels and goes back to Kansas. Jeremy Irons is Alfred. When Ben Affleck left as Batman, I was hoping that they'd keep the same surrounding cast and just switch in Robert Pattinson, have Jeremy Irons there. It looks like we'll never get to see him again, only in the Schneider cut. But he was great. I love the humor and the dynamic between him and Ben Affleck. Very good. The humor, it wasn't in your face humor. It's kind of subtle things like Bruce Wayne making him coffee and giving it to him, and then this little witty humor between the two of them. It's just brilliant. And then you got Holly Hunter as Senator Finch. One of my favorite scenes in Batman vs Superman is when they're in Lex Luthor's house, and the senator comes to see him, and they have a discussion, and then Lex Luthor points up at the picture, and I think I have the quote here. He goes, "That should be upside down. We know better now, don't we? Devils don't come from hell beneath us. No, they come from the sky." I love that line. It's one of my favorite scenes, one of my favorite lines in movie history, and the score comes in there as well, and it's brilliant. I just love, because that kind of, without Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor explaining his mind and the way he thinks and why he thinks Superman is bad, that quote, that line right there, for me, shows the way he thinks. It shows that this guy is the devil. He's going to cause harm to our world. He didn't come from beneath. They always told us that the devils come from beneath us. The devil is underneath us. This guy came from the sky, and he's a devil. So I really love that. Holly Hunter did a great job as well. She's very good. The courtroom scene as well. I remember in the theater when that scene happened. You have Superman walking in, and it's just silence, and everyone's in awe of Superman. He flies in and he walks in through the courtroom, and then he is concentrating on Holly Hunter, and she pours Granny's pee in the jar, and then Superman realizes that he looks over at the wheelchair and he hears the clicking of the bomb, and it goes off, and then like the whole cinema was kind of in shock at that scene, and there was just silence then because the screen goes black, and that was a really cool scene. Then you just have Henry Cavill's Superman there looking real sad and disappointed then that he didn't realize it sooner, and all these people have died because of him, because he was there. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, as I said, a lot of criticism, did a great job, brilliant in Wonder Woman. Some people say she can't act whatsoever, and she can act, and she wouldn't be picked for the role if she couldn't, you know. She was very good in the role, and I can't wait for Wonder Woman 84. But Batman vs Superman had a great cast. Zack's films always have a great cast. You know, it's one of my other favorite scenes in the film is when you have Ben Affleck's Batman at the end going to see Lex Luthor in prison. You just have that red background. It just kind of it shows how much anger is in Ben Affleck's Batman, and he goes over to Lex Luthor, and he could have beat the shit out of him, but that tells you that he changed, because earlier on in the film when we first see Ben Affleck's Batman, he takes down these tugs and he leaves an imprint in the guy's chest of the batarang, of the bat symbol, and in his chest, and he's sent to prison, and they were saying then in the Ultimate Edition that that's more like a death sentence. If you go into prison with that, you're going to die. So basically Ben Affleck's Batman, he's not killing the guy physically, but he might as well kill him, send him into prison with that. But at the end of the film, it shows how much Ben Affleck's Batman has changed. His mental aspect of things has changed. He's not this I don't care anymore, I'll do what I want Batman. He's more thinking now. He understands where he's gone wrong, and he's trying to change. So instead of leaving it in Lex Luthor's body or beating the shit out of him, he leaves it in the wall, and he shows him that he'll always be watching him, and that anything he does, Ben Affleck's Batman will see and put a stop to that straight away. You know, Jesse Eisenberg's been doing a lot of interviews lately, and he is praising Batman vs Superman. Of course, he doesn't watch his own films, but he still talks about them, and he thinks that Chris Terrio, the writer of Batman vs Superman, is genius, and that script is very. He did a podcast with Empire. I'll put it on my Twitter, and he talks the way his opinion on Batman vs Superman is very interesting, and it makes me think about it in a certain way, a different way than I've always thought about Batman vs Superman. Jesse Eisenberg is a very intelligent guy, and the way I like listening to him talk about films, because you pick up something new and you kind of realize something different. But his opinion on Batman vs Superman, it's this different film. It's not really like a comic book film. There's all this mythology with it and all this. That's what really that's what really attracted him to the script and the great writing and all that. So, you know, so Zack always has a good team with him the whole time. But Batman vs Superman came out 4 years ago today. Can't believe it's been 4 years. Look how much the DCU has changed. Warner Brothers has gone in a completely different direction from Zack's arc. He always wanted directors to do their own thing, I understand that, but I'm talking about his films. He wanted to do Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Justice League Part 1, Justice League Part 2, maybe even Justice League Part 3, and that was all changed, and he was pushed away and he was pushed out. James Wan got to make his film, Patty Jenkins making her film, Cathy Yan making her film, you know, things like that. So they have gone a different direction, but 4 years later, even though Warner Bros. Have gone in a different direction, the fan base is still calling for Zack Snyder, still calling for Ben Affleck, still calling for Henry Cavill. They want these people involved in this DC universe. They want to see this arc. That's why the Snyder Cut, it needs to be released. It has to be released. Fans paid good money to go see Man of Steel. They got excited when see Batman vs Superman. They got excited when seeing Justice League, and they were lied to. So the best thing Warner Bros. Can do is just release that film. You know, I will defend Batman vs Superman till the day I die. It's an amazing film. There's so many cool scenes in it. The cinematography is brilliant. I like the interaction between Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot. That was the Marta moment that gets a lot of criticism, of course. I never thought much of it in the cinema. I never said, "Oh, that's stupid" or anything. I understand Zack Schneider's interpretation of what he was going for, and I agree with it. Ben Affleck's Batman had a lot of, definitely had PTSD, probably depressed, things like that. You know, that's a big imagine. Like, he witnessed his mother and father being shot in front of him. Like, you know, like, that has a big impact on someone throughout their whole life. He dresses up as a bat, like, you know. Doomsday as well. Got everyone got criticism in this film from critics, but I don't really care, you know. And then Ben Affleck's Batman, here I am. So, look, I'll definitely be watching Batman vs Superman today later on tonight. The Ultimate Edition, of course, to celebrate the 4-year anniversary of Batman vs Superman. Also, there's an event going on Twitter and on social media. If you get a GIF of Batman vs Superman that you love, share it. Use the hashtag BVS 4 years. The hashtag release the Schneider Cut, hashtag DCU, I think. And if you go on Twitter, you'll see it on my page, or see it on other people's pages who've organised it. Figure out what time it's starting in your country. So it's starting at 5 p.m. here. So basically, you just as many gifts as you want, and just have a tribute towards Batman vs Superman. And hopefully it might trend, but it doesn't have to trend. It's just a day of celebrating the film. And I'm sure that Zach will release a Batman vs Superman picture later on today, or he may have it done already now while I'm making this video. But Zach appreciates the fans, and he's always been a good person towards the fans and interaction and stuff, and that's why he's one of my favorite directors. Because one scene I forgot about as well. I said 3 the best action scenes of all time. I forgot about the futuristic apocalypse, like, kind of similar to what we're going through now scene. Yeah, that was a brilliant scene. Absolutely. We got 4 of the best action scenes of all time. I was thinking about the warehouse scene too much, about 30 guys. How about 30 or 40 guys coming on with guns, and then parademons coming as well? Now that was cool. Mad Max style Batman vs Superman scene. And we were supposed to get more on that in the films. Like, that's it. It annoys me. I appreciate that we got Batman vs Superman. I appreciate that we got Man of Steel. But when I think about what we were going to get in Justice League, what we were going to get in Justice League Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, man, it really annoys me. Really just makes me upset at Warner Brothers. It makes me just want to go on and just say hurtful things, bad things about them. But I try and hold that in. Try and keep the positivity going about the Schneider Cut. Today is about Batman versus Superman. Yeah, but that apocalypse Mad Max style scene was pretty cool as well. You know, he was going to get the kryptonite to defeat the evil Superman, and then you got Superman that comes down and takes out, rips Superman's heart out of his chest, similar to what he did in the comics when he ripped Joker's heart out of his chest after he killed Lois Lane. So, like, in that future world, Superman blamed Batman for Lois Lane's death, and that's probably part of the reason why Flash was going back in time. To warn Bruce Wayne that Lois was the key. Of course, we know Zack's plan was Darkseid was to boom tube into the Batcave and kill Lois Lane and Wonder Woman. So yeah, that would have been cool things to see. You know, it would have been very different from anything that we've ever seen in a comic book film. Oh, it would have been so cool, man. It's annoying. But the best thing we can do is today celebrate Batman versus Superman, spread positivity, engage with the fan base. I've been looking forward to this day for a very long time. And keep hashtagging, keep supporting. We're all in this together. We're all in quarantine, so it's the perfect time to watch Batman vs Superman tonight. Get out your Ultimate Edition. If not, watch the Cinema Edition. Still a good film. I still enjoy it. I have the 2 of them there anyway. But thanks for watching. Enjoy your day. Stay positive. Until next time.